Hello and welcome to episode 247 of the 77 Club. Harry, start with the socials.
The Wall 77 Club on Facebook and Twitter. No, it's not. It's at 77 Club
Fucking
Podcast on
hell.
Twitter. Please rate us on Spotify and Apple and subscribe on YouTube, please. It does help.
I wouldn't after that. I'll go to the wrong place.
Just before we came on as well, Sam asked Harry, like, "Oh, right, are you ready?" And Harry was like, "Yeah, I'm always ready." And then he comes on and fucks up the first thing he's going to do. And hello, I'm Jack.
And Jack is here. Excellent. Right, okay. Harry, we're going to start with West Ham. Very disappointing 3-0 loss. I think over the last couple of weeks, we've been calling for Dan Bentley to have a chance in goal, and he too has shanked it.
Yeah, that was a shock, wasn't it? Something happened with Sarr. I don't know what it was, but apparently there's a few people ill, wasn't there, before the game? So yeah, that was a shock. But the biggest shock for me was the fact we changed to a back four, and in particular that Toti Gomez was left back when we had Bueno and Aït-Nouri. It was Hugo Bueno on the bench, wasn't it? When Hugo Bueno and Aït-Nouri on the bench, so that was strange. 4-3-3, and I didn't know what to expect going into it. I think we all predicted a draw, didn't we, last week? And after it started, the first 10 minutes again, I was like, yeah, same old Wolves, similar performance to what we saw against Burnley and Forest, really. And we kind of fell apart for their goal. They was all over us. Bellegarde was absolutely awful. I mean, we'll get onto it a bit more. But yeah, just again, really disappointing to watch. I don't know what's happened to us lately. I mean, we're dying to get Neto back, aren't we? Which I'm sure we'll go on to later because he potentially could be back soon. And all round, I feel sorry for you, Jack, being in that away end because it was painful enough watching on telly, to be honest.
I was going to say, Jack, I mean, Harry, you made the comment, I think, on the group where Jack sent a picture and said you may as well be sitting in the car park watching that. I mean, it did look far away, but I suppose that's what happens when you're in an Olympic stadium.
Yeah, and I mean, I've spoke about it before on this podcast when I've been there in recent seasons, but you are so far away in the actual stand because all the people who are sat closest are basically sat in a temporary structure which is just covering the running track, basically, or where the running track used to be, because you're obviously that far away. But we knew that before we went, the atmosphere was going to be difficult, and particularly when it's at 2:00 on a Sunday, which is pretty bad kickoff time, really, because it's obviously earlier than 3:00. It's not on a good day of the week. It's on the telly. The atmosphere from the fans really from the start was pretty flat, and again, I think I'm not saying it fed through to the players. I think this is all on the players and the management, really. But when the team comes out and we see we're playing a strange formation, it's all a bit weird, really, and just everything was wrong about it. And if you watch back like those goals now, I think we started slowly. I've seen some people say like our post match that we were the better team to start with, but I didn't get that impression at all from where I was stood. I thought that they were coming for us and creating better chances. We might have had a bit of the ball, but they looked more dangerous. And I was thinking, well, it's just kind of a matter of time here before I think we go 1-0 down, and then all it takes is one half break and a crossfield ball, and suddenly goal, and we're 1-0 down. Smaino just backs off, doesn't he? Really, it's like Roger Johnson's school of defending, back off goal. So not used to him. I know he's a bit out of his natural position, but he's the player who's usually the one running back or the last man back sort of thing, and probably should deal with it better. And then it just seems like the second goal was pretty much exactly the same. It's the same ball that they play, from across from their left to right, and they're in again, and it's 2-0, and it seems like it's pretty much game over. But yeah, then it was pretty depressing from that, and we get back into the game, but then what happens? It's old VAR again, isn't it? So it looked like we had a little bit of a spark at some point leading up to that goal, and probably for the 10 minutes afterwards, but not enough to go on a wind, and VAR just took our momentum out. But I remember like when that goal went in, when that equaliser went in, because it was quite a well worked goal, to be fair, wasn't it? It was quite good for us to not equalise, to get us back to 2-1. I just remember when it was cut back, everyone started cheering, and I said to the bloke next to me, I was like, "Are you sure that's onside?" Because I wasn't convinced. I know it was close, and everyone seemed to be convinced. So I was like, "Okay, brilliant." But then it happens, didn't it? You know what's going to happen.
I think it was his toe. It must have been offside. I mean, as soon as you're drawing lines and all that sort of stuff, it's frustrating, isn't it, Harry? But I mean, it's not been as bad as some of the previous ones we've had. But I think one words that I think pops up the most to describe the game, appears in your search history a lot here, is sloppy. And Bellegarde is probably one of those players that fits that way of describing it.
Yeah, but talking of Bellegarde, he got absolutely cleaned out of an elbow, and there should have been a sending off. And again, they've admitted that they got that wrong. They checked it, didn't even get booked, and the VAR or POGMOL, whatever you call it, PJMOL, have admitted that it should have been a red card. It was more like a bloody wrestling move than a tackle. Absolutely ridiculous. But the offside Sarabia, as soon as it happened, I didn't even celebrate. I could see he was off. Like you could see he was slightly ahead of play, only a small bit. The fact it took him nearly 4 minutes to work out he was off was baffling to me because they can never get the angle right, can they? But poor from Sarabia, that is. How can he stray offside there? He's got to stay onside. He was shit on the day as well, Sarabia. Really, you do my head in. The only player that could hold his head up high a little bit was Cunha for me. He was running at him. He had a few shots. Huang, I genuinely forgot he was on the pitch. I didn't even know he was on the pitch, honestly. When he would pop up, I go, oh, he's there. I forgot.
He's been poor lately, in the last few games.
Yeah, he looks knackered. And Totti Gomez, people are putting in the comments that he was very exposed, but he was shocking. He's been really bad the last few games. And like I said, it was Aït-Nouri needed to come on earlier for me, but obviously he probably weren't fit enough. But he was so exposed down the left. Obviously, two of their goals came from that side. The Bowen goal as well. My life, like Dawson, when he's got people running at him. Like, then his game is it. When we're up high line, and he has to try and run back against someone like Bowen, he's got no chance. But yeah, and Bentley, terrible for the first goal he's positioning. I don't know what he was doing. And for me, for the Bowen one, it was a good finish. Don't get me wrong, but I think a lot of keepers would save that. I think they'd have it covered and they'd tip that around the post, but don't want to be too harsh for that. But in the second half, we were a bit better. Like when we got that offside goal, the Sarabia offside goal, in that little 15-minute spell, we were actually decent. But how Gary O'Neill didn't think to make a change at half-time after that first half performance, I'll never know. Yeah. And you got Sasa Kalajic and Fabio sat on the bench. You don't even bring them on. Just bizarre substitutions again from Gary O'Neill, which he's done quite a lot this season. He's done good substitutions, but this was another one which falls to the category of bizarre, and 90% of fans watching are like, what are you doing?
Strange, isn't it, Jack? I mean, I think Wolves edged possession, 3 shots on target to West Ham's 4. West Ham are just a little bit more clinical, but it's that final pass, isn't it? It's the pass that turns the defensiveness into offense, and that seems to be the thing that's going begging the most. Is that split second decision of which ball to play, and then we end up giving it away. And for all of the goals, I think we gave away the ball quite far away from our goal, quite far up the pitch. Losing it to lose it there, and then for it to happen is criminal, really.
Well, yeah, and like we said, the first 2 goals were just basically, I think, carbon copies, where it's just one crossfield ball and they're in. And then granted, I think their finishing was good. Obviously, their finishing is much better than we can ever really hope for or see. We always overthink it, and we always try and play the extra pass rather than just being clinical and going for the throat straight away, I think. And that's something we need to work on. But yeah, there was going back to what Harry was saying about the substitutions, particularly watching it from the stands. And granted, we just gone 3-0 down, and you're thinking, right, the game's gone, but there's 10 minutes left plus injury time, which could mean there's 15 to 20 minutes left with the way injury time's been added on this season and these sorts of things. And you need a bit of inspiration from the bench. The game's gone, so you might as well go for it. And the 2 subs he makes are Tommy Doyle and Matt Doherty. And you're thinking, what are you expecting here? Is he just said, right, well, this has been terrible all day, so let's just swap a few about and rest a few players for 10 minutes, and that's it. But he's got a bit to answer for lately, Gary O'Neill, because I know he seems to be working in waves where it's going back to how it was before that Ipswich League Cup game that we always reference as being the turning point, and I don't want it to turn back the other way. But when literally that first half, I'm sat there because where the fans are behind the goal, and I'm watching Totti and Bellegarde play in front of him. And it's just not happening. They just looked out their depth, to be honest with you. I agree with what Harry said, that we looked a bit better for that 10 minutes. I think that's when Cunha came alive for a bit. He came alive for a bit and thought there's a bit of fight here. And I think if that goal would have stood, we'd have come out and it would have been obviously a closer game. It wouldn't have been a 3-0. It would have been a lot tighter, and maybe we'd have got something from it just about. But I wouldn't have been particularly confident with the way that they were pulling us open on the break, because it would have happened a couple more times that we'd have to try and get through. And the reason for that, I think, is just people playing a little bit out of position and a formation that we're not necessarily used to, and we paid the price for it. But there's a bigger question here as well that you need to sort of ask: does O'Neill trust all of his squad? Are there players that are in and around that team at the moment, or in and around that bench that he just doesn't trust to come on? And when you look at the substitutions and you're chasing a game and you've got 2 strikers on the bench and you won't pick any of them, the answer to that's got to be no, isn't it? It's got to be no, because we need to go for it. It's like you can't just keep doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. And that's what happened in that game, because all the goals are pretty similar. That third goal was just basically lost the ball, quick 1-2. Oh, they're in, goal. And it was that easy for them. And that's the thing that you need to be seeing and addressing. But it was frustrating to just roll over in that way, really, because it's a game that on paper we should have been looking to get something from.
Harry Stew's made the comment, I've supported Gary O'Neill, but I do find it bizarre how he has no faith in the likes of Sasha. Following on from what Jack said there, is it a trust issue within the squad? Is it because, only a few of those players in the squad have been made by him, obviously very, very rushed because of the way that everything happened with Lopetegui. But is it a trust issue? And why do you think Sasha isn't being brought on?
Yeah, well, it's strange. I mean, I can understand the Fabio one because he has been dog awful, but Sasha has come on a couple of times and scored. He's had a few starts and not set the world alight, but I really like him. The only thing I can think is he sees him all week in training, doesn't he? He obviously don't fancy him for some reason, and it might be the style of play. He might think when he plays, it don't suit us. Like if we're playing on the counter, for example, he hasn't really got the pace. But then there's someone like Sarabia hasn't either, so. Something then added up. Maybe he already knows that the higher ups want to get rid of him in January. I can't think of any other reason why he's not bringing him on. Because I really like him. You got to think he's had a horrendous injury, but the games I've seen him play, I've liked what I've seen. I think he holds the ball up well. He's really good with his feet for a big fella. Obviously, he can use his head. We saw that away at Everton when he got the winner, or his shoulder. But yeah, I'm surprised at that one because I'd give Sasha much more of a chance, especially the way Hwang's been playing. I mean, we've got to chop and change it up a bit with Neto out injured as well. Sarabia's come back in, and for me, hot and cold. Like, he can be really good or he can be absolutely awful, like he was against West Ham, in my opinion. So I'd give Sasha more of a chance. And when you bring him on, adapt the way you play a bit. Whip the balls in from the wings. Use your wing backs if we're playing 5 at the back. So I find it very strange. I really do. But as I said at the beginning of what I'm saying here, he sees him week in, week out in training, and he's got his reasons, which we'll probably never know the true reasons why, unless he is actually leaving in January and it's already sorted.
It's a difficult, isn't it, Jack? Because if the hierarchy are looking to get rid of Sasha or offload him and get some money, then they've got somebody with a history of ACL problems who's just come back from an ACL injury, having had surgery, and they must be thinking, we're not going to be getting much money for him because looking at his track record. Because I think realistically, £15 million for him was a little bit of a steal because I think because of his injury record. So, what is the thinking there?
The thinking is, it just goes back to, why did we buy him in the first place if there was just no plan B for this sort of situation? And that's the weird thing. And it must be really frustrating to be, a striker, one of what, 2 out and out strikers, you'd say, at this football club. And neither of you can get on the pitch. And we're a team that's, not been struggling for goals this season, but have, I'd say, in the last few games. And when you have come on in the past and your goals to minute ratio, even coming back from injury, is actually pretty good for us, should we say? It's a weird one. So maybe he's unsettled. Maybe it must just be that Gary O'Neill doesn't fancy him. He doesn't like that style of play, which I know is the obvious choice. But I think it's got to be something to do with that. But look at those 2 strikers and look at the return on investment we're getting for what, 50 million quid between Fabio and Sasha. It's really, really poor. Like, I'm sure we could have bought a player from the Championship who would have been able to be a tenth of that price. Well, not a tenth of that price, not for a good Championship striker, but a fifth of that price, and get more out of him. But it just shows. Why did we buy him in the first place? I know it would have been a signing that was originally discussed, in the large era probably, but there has to be a plan B. It can't just be as soon as you change your manager, you change all your players as well. And it's a department where we have just looked light for years, really. Like, we've had one since we've come up. We've had one striker really who's actually done the business, and that's Jimenez, and that's it. And and in a team that in the last few seasons has been goal shy, so it's an area we need to improve in. But you don't improve it if you don't give them a chance to play. And even if when they do come on and score, the next week they're back on the bench or out for the next 4 games, you never see them. So
Very good point. We'll talk about transfer window in 5-10 minutes time. Let's move on to Chelsea, Harry. Everyone is absolutely stoked for the Christmas Eve game at Molineux under the lights. I won't be there because it's Christmas Eve. I don't know who else is going. But this is a really weird one, isn't it? Because Chelsea are obviously not performing very well at all this season, and that's sort of been a carry-on of form from last season, really. How do you see this one playing out? Because I think you put your head on the line saying that you expect Neto to be on the bench for the Chelsea game.
Yeah, so I think it was the I can't remember which game or press conference it was, but Gary O'Neill did say that Ait-Nouri and Neto are pretty much back near enough. So the fact that Ait-Nouri was there and came on at the West Ham game, I think we will see Neto on the bench, which will be a massive boost for everyone, the fans, the players, and if he can get on the pitch at some point, that'd be even better. But on the game, I think I'm about 80% sure I'm going to go. It's going to be strange because, like for the Burnley game, for example, Tuesday night on Amazon Prime, there was a lot of empty seats around by me, and I feel like there'll be a lot more for this fixture, with it being Christmas Eve for obvious reasons. I've got no idea what the atmosphere is going to be like. 1 o'clock Christmas Eve, are people going to be on the drink? I don't know.
No.
It's a tough game against Chelsea. Although they're down in and around us or just above us, they're having a poor season, but they've got some quality players. And I think they've got a few players coming back from injury now. And we are the underdogs, which is probably a good thing because, as we've shown this season at Molineux, when we are the underdogs, we can play really well. So if we go back to 5 at the back, classic counter, let them come on to us, let them take the incentive. We might do what we did against Spurs and City, or we might just get absolutely spanked. I do not know. So it's a very strange one. There's a lot of questions to be answered. We need a response after that West Ham performance because it was unacceptable, in my opinion. And I just don't want Wolves to ruin our Christmas because they ruin nearly every weekend, don't they? Apart from the odd occasion. So please don't ruin our Christmas, Gary O'Neill and Wolves.
I think we got 3 games over the festive period. Jack, do you think the goalkeeping situation is going to be an interesting one? Because obviously he has chopped and changed the goalkeeper, in and out. Dan Bentley, Jose Sarr over the last couple of games. And I think when you're a goalkeeper, you just want to run a game to sort of get your feet under the table, get used to it. And obviously with Dan Bentley, he hasn't played a lot of football, let alone Premier League football for the last 12 months or so. Do you see there being a change again, or do you think he's got a second chance to maybe give it a go?
Do we know that the change on Sunday was definitely tactical? Because I thought when we saw the team come out, I assumed that it must have been because Sarr's not 100%, to be honest. But do we know if it was definitely a tactical switch? Because it's weird to bring him back in and then just change it again after one game, isn't it? Like, he
was definitely injured, Sarr. That's what Gary O'Neill said anyway. I can't remember what the description was, but he definitely had like some kind of knock, didn't he?
Yeah, so in that case, I think it will just be a case of when Sarr's fit, Sarr will play, and if he is fit, he'll play. But there's no need. I know you guys were saying that Bentley was at fault, but I didn't particularly notice that. But bearing in mind, I've not watched the game back; I just watched it from the stands. So that's the only time. I mean, for the first one, he looked a bit unsighted, and he's just hit it first time, and it's gone in. So. But yeah, it didn't stick out to me as being particularly bad. There's a couple of occasions I think where he should have come and claimed balls, and it was a bit dodgy. Which I remember those sticking out. I don't particularly remember him being at fault, just him for the goal. I thought it was more just our defending in general. So I'm
watch the first one back, Jack. Watch the first one back. His position. Jesus Christ, he was like Sam at that charity game at the.
How dare you?
Check you.
Let's do a score prediction, Harry.
I can't even. I was going to be really optimistic, but I think we'll just lose 2-0, something like that. I want to be optimistic, I want to be positive, but from what we've seen recently, going on what we've seen, I can't be, unfortunately. Unless Neto is fully fit and starts or something, I think we'll lose 2-0.
2-0. Jack, what are you saying?
Yeah, I think, adding on from what Harry said when he asked about what will the atmosphere be like on Christmas Eve, I think it will be horrendous. Like, I think it's an early kickoff. It's a day where I know a lot of people go out on the night potentially, but not usually that early. It's usually like a family time in the day. There will be a lot of empty seats. One thing that stuck out actually from the West Ham game and the away end, and obviously we know away tickets are quite hard to come by and have been for ever since we went up. there was a fair few empty seats around me. So I think there's a lot of people there who just didn't fancy it on the day, and I can't blame them really, or didn't fancy it, just for whatever reason. So yeah, I know there was definitely two seats right next to me that were empty. There was 2 seats right in front of me that there was nobody sat in. So straight away, then when you're trying to build an atmosphere, when you're all spread out and there's gaps in between you, it makes it harder. And I think it will be a similar situation. A similar situation on Sunday, Christmas Eve, because there'll be a lot of people who just don't fancy it on the day, and there'll be spaces in the crowd. I think. I don't know how ticket sales have gone for the general sale. I'd imagine it looks quite sold out, but I think the truer picture will be people will be a bit depressed to be there, and it'll be a difficult game because Chelsea fans, although it's Christmas Eve and they've whinged about it too, they will turn up because there's probably a massive oversubscription for every away ticket, so they'll have a great atmosphere.
Did I see the other week that they were offering season ticket holders to get an extra 2 tickets on their supporters number? That's never a good sign, is it?
No, yeah, I saw that. Yeah, I saw that come through. So it's like any season ticket, you can buy an extra one. And also, like, you think for that game as well, the pricing is going to be category A, in it. So it's like it's going to be 50 quid a go just the day before Christmas. Yeah, it will be.
Oh,
so
God. Like 60 quid in the Billy Right Upper.
I think it's going to be a bit of a I ain't got high hopes, but I'm usually wrong.
I hope we're wrong. I hope it's a really good atmosphere. I hope that we're all chopped. Yeah, I don't know.
And I know they've been crap away from home lately, but we've been crap just in general. So I think it'll be closer than you think. But anyway, I'm just ranting now. But 1-0 Chelsea. Let's go with that.
All that for 1-0 Chelsea. And don't forget what Poch said. Of course, I think it was in way back in last month. I'm not happy because on the 23rd I have to travel to Wolves. I believe I'm not going to convince her to come with me. That was Mauricio Pochettino upsetting the Wolverhampton Tourism Board by doubting that his wife will want to spend their wedding anniversary in the city ahead of Chelsea's Christmas Eve game. So remember, that is what he said. Big thank you to Richard Archery Reviews as well. This is amazing. Keep up the good work. We love that. Thank you very much. Keeps the channel going. Right, let's move on to actually probably the other fixtures within the festive period, rather than trying to second guess what's going to happen, because obviously we've got injuries and all of that stuff potentially. So obviously we've got Brentford and Everton in there as well. So obviously we're all pretty much going for no points against Chelsea. How many points, Harry, do you reckon we'll take from Brentford and Everton?
Brentford, it's just weirdly, before we come on earlier, a Brentford channel got in touch to like an away perspective, and I looked at the table because I ain't really looked at it, and we've got the exact same record, haven't we, as Brentford? They started off really well, and they've dropped off a bit lately. I think they've only won 1 in the last 4 or 5. I think you've got to expect we get at least a draw there. Is that being optimistic? I'm going to go for a draw for that one. Everton, that's at home, isn't it, Everton?
Yeah.
So we've got to go 4 points, haven't we? Come on, Christmas spirit, high on life. 4 points out of those 2. Come on.
I think if we get into Brentford and annoy them as much as Villa did, then anything can happen. What do you think then, Jack, out of Brentford away, Everton at home?
I'm very, very low spirits after Sunday, to be honest with you. So
you're going to be visited by 3 ghosts, you are.
But let's just be optimistic and say, look, we'll win one of them, but I don't know which one. So 3.
You going to Brentford, Jack? Stand by you.
No, I'm going to Brentford in the cup game. I'm not going because it's the 27th, and it's
Friday night.
I was offered a ticket, yeah, but it's family stuff in it, so I can't commit to it. But I am going to the cup game one.
Yeah.
Lovely. Okay. Well, that'd be nice to get a couple of more points on the board. Don't want to see out 2023 stuck on this, I think. Let's move on to, I know we touched on it already, but January transfer window. I only say it, Harry, because we're going to lose probably Hwang, Ryan Aït-Nouri and Boubacar Traoré. So Hwang will go to the Asia Cup, which starts on, I think, the 12th of January. And Aït-Nouri and Traoré will be probably going to the African Cup of Nations, which starts on the 13th of January. So what do you think? Do you think that will impact the transfer window in any way? Do you think we might look at some loans or loan to buys, like back in the day when we used to do business well, just try before you buy rather than spending a lot of money on teenagers and that sort of thing?
Yeah, well, obviously Hwang and Aït-Nouri are the ones that stick out, but we've got a big gap, haven't we? After the Brentford FA Cup one, is it not until like the 20th or something? Around the 20th of
20th.
January? Yeah. So and how long does that them competitions go on for? Till like early Feb, is it, or are they done in
Yeah, it's
January? So
four
yeah.
weeks.
So well, I think we're going to have activity in January because not just because of that reason with them lot going, but as we mentioned earlier, Sasha and Fabio Silva might go in January, and I can't think who else. Checking on go. Johnny maybe after the controversy around him. I saw people in the comments earlier saying he might go to Forest with Nuno, Johnny. So
It's possible. Yeah.
that could happen. But it's going to be a busy January. I know last January it saved us, didn't it, with the Lamina and Dawson deals. So it'll be interesting. I think there's going to be a lot of activity, and we need it. If Gary O'Neill's not happy with some of the players, as we've discussed, it'd be nice for him to get his own few players in. There's going to be activity, and it is a shame not to have Wang and Ait Nori, even Babacar, because as we know, if we're winning against a big team, we bring him on to shore it up. Yeah, be interesting to see what happens with that. I hate it when these competitions come out in January. It throws a spanner in the works, doesn't it?
It's a really difficult one, isn't it, Jack? Because, like you say, a couple of comments saying that it may mean that Johnny potentially stays. I mean, I don't know how he can really with conduct if it's to be believed what has been reported. So, I mean, what do we do?
Well, yeah, I just wasn't really aware of these competitions going on, to be honest with you, until you mentioned it just before the podcast. So we've known in recent weeks that the squad seems to be a bit too small, because when we had those few suspensions, couple of injuries, suddenly there's players coming onto the bench who we don't know. Then the Johnny incident, which they've said he won't come back in until February at the soonest, which means they must be trying his best to get him off the books in some way, even if it means, a loan and paying some of the wages. So, yeah, we need recruits, don't we? If you believe what John Percy says, that in addition to Johnny, that Fabio and Kalajic are both going, then striker's going to have to be top of the list. But I can't see Sasha going. To be honest with you, I think it's a bit soon, and he has been around. There's been impact there from him. Fabio, on the other hand, I think he needs to move, and it's one of those gambles that we've taken. An expensive gamble, which it doesn't look like it's really paid off, has it, to be honest? So it's a shame, but we have to just move on. But yeah, we need recruits, and they have to try and back him now. And now that all the financial fair play stuff seems to have been ironed out and the books have been published, you'd hope there is at least a mini war chest here for O'Neill. My worry, though, in this whole situation is that with how sort of frugal Fosun have been these last few months, they will look at the table and go, right, well, there's 3 bloody rubbish teams here at the bottom, which you would bank. Another team that's had a 10-point deduction, you would think Gary O'Neill will have enough here to get us over that 38-point mark to be comfortably safe, looking at the way the table's shaping up. And could you blame them for doing that, really? And then just say, look, we'll invest properly in the summer and go for it again. When the money will, not now they'll be spending to be the difference between finishing 17th and 13th when they can have a fresh crack at it. I don't know. That's just me putting 2 and 2 together and getting 5, but we'll see.
I suppose a club sale at the end of the season would potentially play into that, Harry. I mean, it is difficult, isn't it? Because we've got youngsters on the bench, but we're not playing them. So we're not blooding any youngsters. Even, like you say, a great opportunity of the day to maybe actually just play some of them at 3-0 down when the game was gone. And obviously he brought on Double D, which was unfortunately Doc and Doyle. But do you see anything happening? Just a yes or no, really?
What's that? The club being sold in next summer
with the January transfer window?
I think there'll be activity. Yeah, I think we'll be surprised. There'll be a lot going on. I think there'll be like 2 or 3 go, and maybe a couple in. Definitely, especially like we said. Especially, I think Sasha's going. I don't want him to, but I really do think he might go. I really do.
I'm going to clip it up. Right, let's move on to Nuno, and obviously having moved to Nottingham Forest, it really is a tale of 2 fan bases. It's so strange to listen to it, Harry, because you've got on one hand Forest, who bizarrely love Steve Cooper, and obviously have maybe the romanticised version of them getting promoted and having been away for such a long period of time from the top flight. And then you've got the Wolves fans who are saying, "Oh God, I wish he'd come back here, or I wish he hadn't gone in the first place, or we shouldn't have got rid of him in the first place." It's really, really strange, isn't it, for 2 fan bases to be so far apart in what they're seeing? But obviously, Forest fans are probably looking at it as an overall. He's been in Saudi, didn't really do it at Tottenham, obviously only in charge for 17 games, and had a very good period with Wolves. And when you looking back, obviously we didn't know at the time that the players that we had in the Neveses and the Jotas and those kind of players.
Funny, first comment I just seen pop up, Paul Somerset, well, good for Morgan Gibbs White. He must be gutted. He must be thinking, what have I done to deserve this? Because obviously they didn't see eye to eye, did they, when he was Wolves manager? But I can see why the Forest fans are annoyed, because like when Nuno left us and like Bruno Lage coming, I know it's not, it's not a similar person coming into Nuno going into them, but we were all like, oh, weren't we? Just lost our hero, basically, which they do see Steve Cooper as that. When we played Forest in the 1-1 draw the other week, you could see how much they backed him. But on paper, I can see why Forest have done it, because you look at Nuno's CV, obviously with us, it makes sense. But I don't think it's going to work out that well, to be honest. I'll be surprised if he lasts more than 12 months. I've got it just don't fit with me with it. But it's funny because it's brought up all the conversations. I think we said on WhatsApp, and you said, Sam, that we romanticised looking back at the Nuno era. But I put out that tweet on our channel saying, like, if we come 13th this year, we'd be absolutely delighted. When we come 13th to Nuno in his last year, a lot of our fan base were furious, and a lot of our fan base wanted him to get sacked, and he did. And we were all gutted at the time. And what could have been if he'd have stayed and been given what Bruno Lage was given, which wasn't too much, but it's just a shame how it ended. And looking back at that era as the years go on, it just ages like a fine wine, as I said in that tweet. And yeah, I'm still not over it. I still cry sometimes at night thinking of Nuno. But yeah, it don't feel like a right fit for me. It really don't. Like when he went to Spurs, I didn't think that would last, and it didn't. I know they're a bit of a higher level and they expect more, but it's not a good fit. Something don't feel right. But like people are saying, Johnny will probably go there. He'll probably try and get Cody from Leicester. He'll probably try and get Raul from Fulham. He'll get all the old gang back together when he try and get Georgia around.
Get Raul back to what? To kick somebody? What do I think? You can't help but reminisce, because obviously he's come back and he's such a hero to us, and I think he should have been given when he went at the end of that season, which turned out to be the last season where we were still messing about with all the COVID stuff. If you think that that his Europa League campaign was killed by COVID at the start, he was just coming out of COVID at the end, he should have at least been given, that next season to actually, regroup and do it. But the relationship broke down. It is what it is. And he went to Spurs. It didn't work out, but it doesn't work out for anybody at Spurs. Who's done a really good Spurs job, in the last 20 years. So it's a difficult one. Yeah, he is. Yeah, I'm jesting, but I remember that he beat Man City in his first game there, didn't he? And everyone was like, "Oh, bloody hell, this is a great move!" And then 6 weeks later, he's gone. So
it shows how mad football is.
You need to give time, and top six clubs don't like giving time, do they? So whatever. And then, but you look at his record in Saudi Arabia, and he went there a little bit before this recent wave of you see everybody going there. But he won the league last season with them. And they've been quite brutal to cut him this season because he's fallen out with some of their star players. And I know the Saudi league, it seems to be more a league just for attracting individuals rather than a team effort of, trying to win things. But he went there and he beat a team that had Ronaldo in it. So, he's obviously done quite well there to win that league title, hasn't he? So, I think it could be a good appointment for Forest, to be honest. I think he'll come in. It'll get enough points to keep them comfortably up. They're 17th now, and I think they will finish higher than 17th with his appointment, to be honest, and the impact he'll make when he comes in. Whether the Forest fans will take to him like we did, I doubt, because I've just had a quick look on Twitter, and there's, people who just don't like him already. And, but I don't know what their expectation is. Forest are one of these clubs that, because they used to be really big, they have higher expectations than actually like realistic, I think. So maybe that's why they're a bit disappointed. But just staying in the Premier League at the moment is still their goal. Let's be honest. So,
did you see his press conference?
I haven't seen it. No,
it struck me. He was obviously when he was with us, they were a hard watch, weren't they? His press conferences. He wasn't the most charismatic bloke in the world, but he was really. I don't know if he just felt like he was really trying to come across a bit like happy and all that. I watched it. I thought, I think he's trying to get the fans on side here, but he is done as dishwater, isn't he? So I don't think that'll help his cause. Just saying that Steve Cooper, I mean, he looked like he was pissed half the time, didn't he, on the sideline? So I think if they start winning on the pitch, they'll take to him. Like, we were going to love him from the off as soon as he started winning. If the manager wins, he's crap with the media, we don't care, do we? If he fist pumps a few times to the South Bank, he's a hero. So, yeah, like I said, I know Jack said he thinks it'll fit. There's something don't feel right with me about it. I don't know what it is, but something don't feel like it's going to click. But
yeah,
I could be wrong.
There's an element, I think it seems, of him of us not wanting to do well, or him not wanting to be successful with someone else.
Like,
I'm
bitter.
Exactly.
Do you think has he bought like his 43 members of backroom staff as well? Again, all on 3-year contracts, or what? It's usually the way it goes, isn't it?
It is funny though with the Saudi Arabia thing, and I think it just hammers home the point that I think we made on a previous podcast was that I think the Saudi league will become more about being fans of players rather than being fans of clubs, and if you fall out with the talent, then you're going to get sacked. And I think obviously he found that out. But he is back in the Premier League. Let's just, before we talk about Sports Personality of the Year, there was a comment I saw from somebody on Twitter saying that away days aren't what they used to be. I'll admit I haven't been on one for a very, very long time. The home games are enough for me, and now I'm skint from that. So, Jack, I'll start with you because you go to the most away games out of us by a long shot. There were comments made about the songs that were being sung, or the lack of, I don't know, would you call it creativity around new songs? And it's almost recycling old ones. I think Paul in the comments saying about, will Forrest sing Nuno's song? Obviously the Nuno song, huge song, reminds us of some very, very, very good days, but very, very clever lyrics. But what do you think has happened to the away days? Has the magic gone?
I think the magic has gone. It's gone a little bit for everything, really. The Bruno Lage era in particular was a very, very tough watch. And I think trying to come back and rebuild after that was always difficult. And Lopetegui gave us back a bit of fight there. But Gary O'Neill has been, very up and down, really, good patches and bad patches. So it does make it hard. And yeah, you haven't got that sort of level of rapport that people are going to be singing their name. But it's hard coming off the back of Sunday, because Sunday was terrible. It was terrible on the pitch. It was terrible off the pitch. I said it's a terrible kickoff time. People are getting depressed at things like these kickoff times. And you look at the fixtures we've got coming up over Christmas and the times they're being played. We've got Brentford Friday night, a cup game that's been moved for foreign television, not for UK television. Brighton on a Monday night. And it just seems to never end. And then when you do go to an away game and you score a goal, you can't celebrate because it gets ruled out. We've had so much nonsense with it. We've had so much nonsense with it that people are just losing patience, I think. And that is why, add to that some below par performances. And I'm not blaming Gary O'Neill because, like I said, on the whole so far, he's done okay, apart from in recent weeks. It just makes it very difficult to get that bit of bite back, and that bit of fight back. And particularly when you do fight back, then it gets ruled out, or you have to stand there in the cold for bloody, 5 minutes while they decide if they can rule it out or not, because they're just looking to. It's a combination of all these things, but they're not doing it to help the fans. They're not doing it to help the away travelling support, because if you wanted to get the atmosphere back straight away, play the games on a Saturday consistently, and people will, it's much better to get up for a game when it's a Saturday. You haven't got to think about going to work the next day. People have more beers. People get more rowdy. And the VAR nonsense has just hit us so hard this season. Everyone's just a bit depressed with it, I think. And that's why there's no creativity, and it's looking a bit down in the stands, because, a lot of it's been depressing. Like Arsenal last week before last, it was so bloody cold as well. And, the fans were good, I thought. The fans were good. They were singing O'Neill's name all the way through it. And although we didn't get the result we wanted to, we showed a bit of fight, and that's what you want. But when there's nothing on show to fight for, and it feels like the whole league's against you, I can see why people want to do other stuff with their money.
Harry, it's a good point, isn't it? The cost of living crisis alongside it, maybe people not going to as many games as they normally would, and hence there's a little bit of a rotation of the people, so you haven't got the same people all the time, week in, week out.
Yeah, that could be a little factor. But the biggest one for me is that we just don't win much away anymore. I think we've won 2 away this year, but in this calendar year, how many away games have we won? 4? I can remember 5. That makes it hard. And obviously VAR is a big one, definitely. And yeah, I think maybe the rotation of the same fans going. I don't know. It's strange. Well, I ain't been to an away game since Leeds away, the first game under Bruno, I think it was. That was a decent atmosphere, but Leeds away is Leeds away, and it always is. But Yeah, I don't know, but at home it's been similar, to be honest. Since the Nuno had a dream song who died, the Raul Jimenez song died. We lost some good songs, didn't we? It's very, unless we played like beat Spurs like we did, or the City game, Liverpool and the Lopetegui, the 3-0 win, because we can't really get many songs going apart from Gary O'Neill's Barmy Army every now and then. The home
Yeah.
games just are painful. They really are. The atmosphere is really suffering. We haven't got that connection with the players and the manager and all that like we used to, which is going to be hard to get back. And obviously, a lot of people don't like the board still, like Jeff and that. He's gone right down in people's estimations. And obviously, in that run under Nuno, when everything was going amazing, pushing towards Europe, you can't not sing, can you, when it's like that? So a big factor's where we are as a club, I guess. We're now basically just trying to survive every year, whereas there was once upon a time when we were dreaming of Champions League and consistently being in Europe. So that's a big factor too. Maybe it's getting a bit stale. I don't know.
Another one from me, actually, just thinking about it from my own personal circumstances, is there's been quite a few away games this season where I could have got a ticket and could have gone to, and I've looked at either the cost of train travel and the reliability of train travel, and I've just been like, it's not worth it. Like, I'm not paying 100 odd quid to get to Sheffield. Like,
Sheffield United, wasn't it? Yeah, absolutely
ridiculous.
horrific.
And I was just thinking, and he's like, then you can say, oh, but the megabus is £15, but then I'm spending 10 hours of my day sat on a bus, and it's just like I'm not that honestly, dedicated. I'm sorry. Like
it's so funny when you bring it up, because I always say that I can remember when I took the National Express, and it was the last time I did it because someone changed their baby's nappy next to me on the seat next to me, and I was like, I will pay anything now to not have that happen ever again. Scarred for life. And when anyone mentions the National Express or Megabus, you get PTSD. It was absolutely horrific. Yeah. So I don't blame you.
Football fans like travelling by train, and the way they can't travel by train is if there's train strikes, the costs go through the roof, which has happened, or you move kickoff times to stupid Monday nights. And that straight away means that people are going to be less up for it because there's less people going there and just, being merry and, having a few drinks and stuff. And that will impact the atmosphere. And it's just another negative thing.
A bloke at my work booked off, I can't remember what day it was, for the Man United game, and that's been moved to a Thursday night, isn't it, in February?
Yeah.
It's like things like that. It's just like you can't even book in advance, like you said. It's just ridiculous. And the Christmas Eve one's the biggest one, isn't it? I think there is trains that day, isn't there? I had a look, not many, but that's just mad, isn't it? Changing that to bloody Christmas Eve. I bet there's so many people that were going to go to that, and then for whatever reason can't. It's ridiculous.
It is going to be. I think it's going to happen. The thing is, at the same time, a lot of people are pushing for the Premier League broadcast rights to be, I'm going to say, Americanized, whereby you can watch every game in your country if you pay a subscription, and that's that. And if that happens, then I don't think they show them all at the same time. They will deliberately, spread them out so you can get a package that shows all the games, but they will be all over the place. They do now, and it's going to get worse, isn't it? Well, worse or better, depending which way you look at it in a few years' time, because they're showing, 70% of them pretty much.
Some Saturdays now, there's like a 6 and an 8 o'clock, isn't there? That never used to happen, did it? Like 6 o'clock, then 8 o'clock. And Sky and BT or TNT have just won the rights till 2030, so it don't change it for another 6-7 years.
But you are getting more games. That's the thing. They're going to be broadcasting. I think 70% of them now are going to be shown or something going forward, like a much higher number. So these kickoff times are going to be spread out for, God knows when.
Rest in peace, 3 p.m. Rest in peace, 3 o'clock kickoff.
Wow. These people will be able to watch them. But I think then what you're going to get is you are going to get a much more varied audience each game. Like, with American sports, it's very rare that people go to every single game for their team. They go to 1 or 2 a season. And that's the same thing that will start happening in the grounds, I think. And that's fine for clubs like, who sell out all the time, or the big tourist clubs like Man United, Chelsea, Liverpool, whoever. But there'll probably be more rotation around all the other people going in other clubs as well. And what that'll mean for Wolves, I don't know. But it's going to happen.
Will be very, very interesting to see what happens. Just very quickly, we'll do, it was the BBC Sports Personality of the Year this week, and the full list of contenders were, in alphabetical order, Stuart Broad, Frankie Dettori, who couldn't even win I'm a Celebrity, Mary Earps, Alfie Hewitt, Katarina Johnson-Thompson, and Rory McIlroy. Harry, you were beyond angry that Mary Earps had won. Don't get us cancelled before the new year, or before the year is out. What were your thoughts on her winning to begin with? And if you didn't think that she should have won, who should have won?
Well, it's a tough one, this, because we discussed it earlier, but there's a bloke called Leon Edwards. I'm not even a massive USC fan, to be honest, but there's a bloke called Leon Edwards who's from Birmingham. Sally Oakey's gym is called Renegade Gym. he won the world title in last year. Then he defended it at the beginning of this year in London against a bloke who was on like a 14 winning streak, like best champion ever, pound for pound, all this. And then he just won in New York. He's the first ever British person to defend a title in America. He did it in Madison Square Garden. So people like that. And there's Tom Aspinall, who's a heavyweight champion in the UFC from Britain. He's from Manchester, I think. Just people like that. It's just crazy how they don't even get a look in. And you got her, who didn't even win anything with England. Maybe she's a good personality because she shouted "fuck off" when she saved a penalty. But for me, with the BBC, I think, like Jack pointed out, if the sport is covered on the BBC or it's been on the BBC or something, yeah, they'll have you in. If it ticks a box that a woman's won it, then they'll have it 2 years in a row now. Woman footballers won it. It's just stupid. I stopped watching Sports Personality of the Year in 2015. Tyson Fury went over to Germany, beat Vladimir Klitschko, a 12-year reigning world champion, and he came fucking fourth. And the only reason he didn't win it, because people were trying to ring up and the line was cutting off. So obviously I remember it all kicking off on Twitter, people saying they couldn't get through and all that. Because he didn't want him to win, because he had said that Jessica Ennis looked nice in a dress, and he'd said so much crazy shit, which was bad at the time, and he is a personality. There's no much more personality than Tyson Fury. I know people hate him these days, but back then, he just shocked the world and he didn't win it. So from then, the BBC can shove their TV license up their arse. I ain't even bothered about Sports Personality of the Year anyway. So that's my thoughts on it.
It's going up in April. Jack, what were your thoughts?
Yeah, I think every time this comes around each year, it raises questions. I mean, the vote is a public vote, isn't it? So, once you've got this shortlist for 6, that's it. But I think the questions are more around how they get that shortlist of 6. And yeah, I do think there's sometimes, as when Harry and I were talking about it earlier, I think there probably is a bias towards like sports that the BBC show more of. I don't know if that's actually true, but I did look it up actually. Which sport do you think in history has the most sports personality winners?
Horse racing.
No.
Oh, do you know the answer?
I don't know. I've looked it up. Yeah, I looked it up earlier. Just I was curious.
Golf, football, boxing.
It must be football.
Nope.
Cricket.
And I think the winning sport has like twice the amount of the second place.
Oh wow!
Okay.
Wait, I go tennis, but I don't know.
Athletics. So it's track events. Track events. Yeah.
Oh, Mo Farah's won it a few times, hasn't he?
I think every time anyone wins an Olympic gold medal, it's one of those big things, and the Olympics are always on terrestrial TV. So yeah. I think that's something into it. But
also historically, we're a bit shit at the Olympics, so actually winning gold is a big thing.
How's Phil Taylor never won one? I think that's a great question. But if you look at the achievements of the people on that shortlist, I mean, Stuart Broad's had a great career. I think if we'd won the Ashes, and he I know he had that double on the day at Edgbaston, we were there. Then he'd had more of a shout. Ronnie O'Sullivan is obviously, the best snooker player ever.
Jack, Andrew Knight just said in the comments, Andrew Knight said Leon Edwards has got no personality. So is that the massive factor as well? Did she win because she got the personality, that woman?
It can be a factor. I think she's done some stuff off the pitch. To be honest, I don't really know much about her. I watched the Women's World Cup final. That's the only game I watched. England were a bit crap, what I thought. I know she saved a penalty, so fair play. But also, that's back-to-back women's footballers. That's the last 2 years it's women's footballers, which is interesting.
In this woke era,
I don't. Well, it's a public vote, though, isn't it? So that's the thing. You can't really say when there's 6.
It wouldn't be like the BBC to rig it, would it? They'd never do that.
I don't think they can. He's saying the BBC rigged the vote. Okay, Jerry Barton.
You sound like
they did that Tyson Fury, I'm telling you.
I remember that time, because actually it came about not long after he'd had that first Wilder fight where he came back. He was just. I thought he was.
How did he not win it that year? That year when he got off the canvas. So he had all that mental health stuff. He got off the canvas in the 12th round. He won the fight, but they give a draw. If he can't win it that year, when he was like personality oozing out of him in that build-up, and he was on the Joe Rogan podcast, he didn't even make the shortlist. So we come 4th year and beat Klitschko, didn't make the shortlist that year. It's just like the bollocks. Maybe I'm biased because I boxed him, but there's other people. I can't remember his name. Not that skier, Buddy Bayless was on about. But there was another one that someone was banging on about. I think he was in athletics again, actually. 1,500 meters in the world.
Jude Bellingham.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that's massive.
That's an interesting one, because you think that's got to be up there. I mean, there's just. I mean, you're never going to please everybody when you do the shortlist, are you? But I don't really know what the solution is really, because do you try and do a public vote to get the 6 and then do another thing, or I'm guessing that 6 is chosen by a committee of sorts, isn't it? So.
It's a criteria. I think the criteria, isn't it? I mean, if you take the achievements, she has had achievements, and I think it's probably an element of the inspiration that she may be to young girls to go on to be sports stars, I suppose. Seeing people who are like you on the big stage and getting rewarded for it potentially.
Did Michael Owen win it? I didn't know that.
So that comment's just made me laugh. There's a comment that the sports personality of the year can't be based on personality alone, as Michael Owen has won it. And when I was looking at these stats earlier, just because when Harry and I were talking about it, there was a run here of literally from 2009 onwards where the winners were Ryan Giggs, bit of a dodgy bloke now. Tony McCoy, who doesn't have much of a personality. Mark Cavendish, Bradley Wiggins, so back-to-back cyclists. And then 3 out of the next 4 years, Andy Murray wins. So there's any personality in any of that, is it? So I think it's not just about performance. It's mainly about performance. If you win a really big title or a big championship, you're going to have a massive chance. But other things feed into it, like off the pitch, which I believe that Mary Earps has done. But I couldn't tell you the details.
Did you see? Talking of Michael Owen, did you see him on the red carpet when they were doing that thing? They had a song. I can't remember what the song is, but the person was going, "What's this?" And then he'd go like, dun, dun, and it's like a clubbing song that's relevant now. And a lot of people were getting it. Come to Michael Owen, he started doing like a nursery rhyme.
To be fair, I'd do the same. To be fair, and so would you, Harry.
True, but Michael Owen, man, the run he's had lately, that one about throwing the apple in the bin, he ain't doing himself any favours at the moment, is he? He's coming pretty funny. I think.
Oh, very funny. Well, look, we'll leave it there. We'll say goodbye and thank you for listening, interacting, and being part of the podcast this year. It means so much to us in a year that's seen an unlikely Premier League survival, 1 top manager crying off, and 3 legends leave the club too. So here's to 2024. Have a very Merry Christmas, and we'll see you again in the new year before we play Brentford for what will seem probably like the 9th time. So it's a goodbye from Harry Mansell.
Yes, have a good Christmas and a happy New Year. And if Gary O'Neill does get sacked, Lopetegui still lives in Wolverhampton, so have Christmas dinner with him. He'll take back over. And thanks for listening. I don't know what you do because it is shit to listen to, I'll be honest. And happy Christmas.
Harry is a wonderful advert for the podcast. It's a goodbye from Jack Williams.
Harry's Christmas speech there. Yeah, honestly, thanks to everybody for listening throughout the year and wishing you all a great Christmas, great New Year, and have a few beers and think of us. It's a bit weird.
And on that note,
listen to